A technical issue caused widespread login issues for a few hours across Meta's Facebook, Instagram, Threads, WhatsApp, and Messenger platforms today. Users reported being locked out of their Facebook accounts and feeds on the platform, and that Threads and Instagram were not refreshing. Meta acknowledges the issues and said the company resolved the issue as quickly as possible for everyone who was impacted. They apologized for any inconvenience. But today's outage is prompting wider concerns about user data and our reliance on digital tech. To chat more about this, we're joined by tech expert Carmi Levy. Carmi, first, how does an outage of this scale happen to a tech company as big as Meta?
Meta, of course, isn't sharing too many details about this particular outage. No company ever really wants to show all of its secrets. But generally speaking, the way these things usually end up is they try to update software, or there's that, and that update goes bad, or there's a bad piece of hardware in their data center that causes a cascading failure that eventually goes global. And so even though each one plays out a little bit differently, when we sort of do a little bit of digging, we realize they all tend to have similar core causes, and it usually just takes a few hours for the company to find out what caused it, resolve it, and get everyone back to where they used to be.
On the surface level, for users of Meta programs, today just seemed like an inconvenience. But if we look a little bit deeper, should they be concerned about their data when companies experience an outage?
We have shifted more and more of our everyday lives into the digital space. And if you think about the things that we share on platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Messenger, there's a lot of private personal information on there. And so anytime there's an outage, there are questions about whether the information that we have there is secured. And in fact, one of the first notifications that I saw as this particular outage started to play out was, have I been hacked? Is my data safe? You start seeing people post that to X and other platforms. And so security is definitely top of mind. And it's a reasonable question to ask in the middle of this outage: is the company doing everything that it can to keep our personal data safe? It's a huge concern. And unfortunately, we don't have answers to that.
When you look at a company like Meta, who's responsible for Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and more, and then see an outage of this scale, is it a concern that one tech company owns so many entities?
It's frightening to think of how much of our digital legacy we are placing in the hands of very few companies, and how much power one company has over all of us, that it can control so many of the apps and tools and platforms that we use every day, and that one outage can literally take them all out at a moment's notice. And so, yeah, there's a concern about concentration of power, that relatively few tech giants control so much of our digital destiny. And quite frankly, that's a question for which there is no answer at this point. It's always been the case. Tech has always been dominated by big companies. It's even worse today than it's ever been. And the fact that all of our lives are in the digital space makes the risks even more notable.
Now, you said there hasn't been much information about today's outage, and that likely won't change. Why the secrecy?
Technology is still a competitive space. Companies are still very concerned about how much information they divulge, under under what context, the timing of how they share it. They don't want to tip off competitors. They don't want to tip off cyber criminals who would use that information to perhaps prosecute additional attacks. And so it's almost like a very carefully choreographed dance whenever an outage occurs. We tend to think that just because this is social media, that we shouldn't take an outage like this all that seriously. Just go back to your regular lives and come back when Facebook is up and running. But the reality is there are a lot of small businesses across this country that use Facebook and Instagram and Threads and other social media platforms for their business. And so for them, their business has gone dark because of this outage. And increasingly, we are seeing more business impact of these outages as time goes on, something that we need to pay attention to as the digital economy continues to evolve.
Thanks so much for chatting with us today, Carmi.
Absolute pleasure. I'm glad you reached out on this.